Rashad McCants, Sean May, and then after Carolina won the title in 2017, I'm sure we all saw the video that surfaced on Twitter. He said after going into 2005, Carolina basketball was Phil Ford, Dean Smith, Michael Jordan, and then he transitioned to 2005. I very much love how he left Rashad McCants to that list. I think there he said it became Sean May, Raymond Felton, and then he actually went with Marvin Williams. I know there was no ill intent there at all, but just, again, another way that I think he was overlooked during his career and everything that he gave to Carolina. And even now, he's a very active supporter of Carolina.
Yeah, that's one of the things, he's a living embodiment of the Carolina basketball family. Writes a blog, I believe, about the team on the side from his professional career. And he's a guy that I'm trying to get on the podcast. And, there's a lot of people within your age demographic that they love Jawad Williams because of what he was able to do once Roy Williams came back to Carolina, kind of restored order in Chapel Hill. We're going to finish up with the center position. And a common theme with Carolina basketball is great point guard play. And normally with the great point guard, you got a great big man to go with you. And the big man I got to run with Jeff Lebo is Joe Wolf. Another player from the 80s, was on campus from 1984 to 1987, a 4-year guy. And like all my other guys, was a guy that initially didn't have a big role as a freshman or even a sophomore. But once he got a role, he made the most of it. As a junior, he averaged 10 points and 6.6 rebounds. And as a senior, those numbers jumped to 15 points and 7 rebounds. I kind of landed with him because, like there was a lot of great point guard play in the 80s, Carolina was also loaded with great big men in the 80s. You had James Worthy, Sam Perkins, and Brad Daugherty. And you also kind of just forget that Joe Wolf could go in there and hang with those guys. He even averaged 30 minutes off the bench one year, which kind of shows you that even though he didn't start, he was still playing 30 minutes a game, so it was hard for Dean Smith and the coach staff to keep him off the floor. And was just a guy that he could do everything that Dean Smith and what was asked from the center position at the time. He could score the ball if you needed to score the ball. He could rebound the ball. He could play good individual defense, could play good team defense. He made the team better being on the floor, and that's why he ultimately landed as my five man.
You took another one of my fan favorites there because I love Joe Wolf coming off the bench. You mentioned the guys that, he had to follow up and play behind. And, he would come off the bench and there really wasn't that much of a drop-off. Really loved his effort anytime that I saw him play. A fantastic player. I also considered Brendan Haywood here because I thought he was much better than the history books will tell you. Definitely an extremely impactful player, powerful big man. But in the end, I went with a guy that I was extremely proud of myself for going back through and finding. And really, I'm going to be honest with you. When I found the name, and started doing the research, I didn't know a lot about him. But Rusty Clark, a guy who played from 1967 through 1969, a phenomenal player in his 3-year career at Carolina. He never averaged less than 14 points per game or 9 rebounds per game, and helped lead the Tar Heels to a Final Four appearance in each of his 3 seasons. He finished his career with 14.7 points per game and 10.2 rebounds per game while shooting 51% from the field. Me, I'm greedy. I want great rebounding on the glass, so I went with a guy that not only could rebound extremely well, but a guy in Rusty Clark who could score the ball well as well. And the reason why he is so underappreciated, the only time that he ever received any sort of postseason recognition was a spot on the second-team All-ACC team as a junior. As I mentioned, he led Carolina to the Final Four in all 3 of his seasons on campus. The unbelievable disrespect for my man Rusty.
I also looked at Brendan Haywood a little bit. I went through Bryce Johnson a little bit. He didn't, as we know, he exploded onto the scene his senior year and had a senior season that nobody will soon forget. But I ultimately landed on Kennedy Meeks. Similar to Jawad Williams in 2005, I don't think that the 2017 National Championship happens without Kennedy Meeks. It was fun to see how he developed throughout his years at Carolina. It kind of made me crow a little bit because to some of my friends and in social groups, before he made the run in 2017, I always joked that he was sponsored by Charmin because he was so soft around the rim. he was always getting blocked, the ball stripped, you name it. There's a lot of frustrations there, but he definitely rebounded back well in 2017 and played a huge role on that national championship team. When you look back at the Arkansas game where we were in trouble, he definitely made a huge play there toward the end that switched the momentum to us. And then obviously once he got to the Final Four, the numbers that he put up against Oregon were just unbelievable. They were Sean May type back in 2005. He scored 25 points and grabbed 14 rebounds, including the offensive rebound that essentially sealed the win for that particular game. And then moving on to the national championship, stats were down quite a bit, but he still had 7 points, 10 rebounds. Ultimately, again, made the game-winning play, blocking Nigel Williams-Goss. And then obviously had on the ensuing possession, he intercepted that pass. And I think something that isn't really spoken about much either is he shut down Karnowski pretty darn well in terms of what Karnowski was and wasn't able to do in the block in that particular game. So not only is he underappreciated, but I could almost make the argument that I think that he had a very valid case to be that the 2017 Final Four MVP, which ultimately would have got him his jersey hanging in the rafters. Again, that's nothing against Joel Berry, who ended up being the most outstanding player, but I think Meeks definitely had a case, and had Meeks won it, Berry would have also still gotten his jersey in the rafters by being an All-American. But simply said, I do not think that banner was raised without Kennedy Meeks and everything that he gave to that team, especially down the stretch.
He wasn't beating out the tough little nub.
Yeah.
With two sprained ankles. There was no way he was the one beating them out. But, yeah, no, that was great, the point about Karnowski, because I think everybody remembers the block. But do you remember just how much we heard about the big Pollock that was going to come in and destroy Carolina? They had gotten this far, but this was Gonzaga's time, and Karnowski was going to come in and run through this team. And, Meeks shut him down in that game. I mean, he could not do anything. And it's amazing, the other thing with Meeks. I mean, go back and watch his first year on campus as a freshman when he was, he was Kennedy Cheeks Meeks. He was big. He was big boy Meeks.
That's what I was wanting to get at. Mark called him Charmin. We had Kennedy Cheek Meeks as a nickname, and it also, at least we're not the only ones that have clever nicknames for some of the guys when they're not playing well.
He was one of the most frustrating players that is just like, is this guy ever going to burst on the scenes? Is he ever going to be what he should be? And then he finally got there, probably that 6-game run in the tournament that year, but he got there when it was most important, and that's all that matters to Carolina fans.
Well, he also, it was weird. He would disappear for most of the season. He'd have like one good game early in the year. He'd disappear. He'd show up for both Duke games and then disappear again. But yeah, that title run, you're 100% right. If he's not on that team, especially if he doesn't play in the Final Four, that team doesn't. I don't think they beat Oregon. I'm going to be honest with you, because he was huge against them. So definitely a guy that I think deserved a lot of credit for everything that happened to Carolina, and it's another one of those guys that I think is kind of the embodiment of the Carolina family, because he loves coming back to campus. He loves spreading the Tar Heel family mantra around and everything like that. And is definitely one of those guys that I think deserves to be remembered and talked about a little bit more than he probably will be.
Well, we'll finish up.
When you think of that team, you think of obviously Barry, Pinson, Jackson, but I'm not necessarily nothing against Barry. Obviously, Barry was more important in terms of the role he played, how he involved others, just the chemistry and running the team that Meeks was. But how many people are going to pull down, score 35-ish points and pull down 35, 40 rebounds in 2 games and not be the most outstanding player of the Final Four? So I think stat-wise alone, he had an argument, but in terms of what Barry brings to the team, definitely had to go with Barry.
Yeah, no, and that's, good find by you, Mark. We'll finish up with this, and I'm not going to say, which team is better, because we're all going to, of course, defend the guys that we picked. Right. But I was thinking about this while we were doing it, and it's just going to be very quick. Who do you think your team lines up better as a coach? Is your team more related to be coached under Dean Smith, or is it Roy Williams? My team has got to be Dean Smith because I've got 4 guys that played for Dean Smith, so I'll go with the Godfather.
I literally don't have a single Roy guy, and this is me, who is a huge Roy. But what's interesting,
you've got Jawad Williams.
Yeah, that's right. I do have Jawad Williams. I mean, it's weird because I feel like Dean, you know, he would know how to coach a lot of these guys, but I feel like with what style I want to play with, which is more of a spread them out, knock down the 3, I think that's kind of where Roy would thrive. I don't know. I mean, again, both are really great options. You know what? I'll go with Bill Guthridge on my sideline.
Way to go,
Bill out
way
there.
to go, wise ass.
At least you didn't go with Dory.
Oh, well, okay. We on the podcast,
we're good friends with him.
We love Coach Doherty because he came on, talked to us. And again, that's another guy that if you go back, you watch a lot of the, mid-'80s games, you learn that he played a very important role on the team. He was a very good defender. He played a lot of key minutes in a lot of big games, including the national championship game in '82. I unfortunately would not go with Coach Doherty on my sideline. But I'd probably go Roy because I've been a Roy guy since day one. Nothing against Dean, but yeah, I'd probably go with Roy to coach my team because of the more modern feel they'd have to him.
Yeah, and I know that probably came across as a dig at Doherty, but it definitely wasn't. I mean, as you said, not only when he played the role that he played, but he recruited all the talent that Roy came and won the national title with in 2005. I mean, all those guys were his guys. So, from seeing him on Twitter and everything, it sounds like he's still definitely also a Carolina ambassador. Just unfortunately, when it came to winning games at Carolina, there was a little bit of a struggle there. So, looking at my team, I think unquestionably have to go with Roy. I say that mainly because my team is actually as split as you can get. Obviously, Meeks, Jawad Williams, and Tokoto fall under Roy Williams, and then when you add Coda and Shaman Williams, I think no doubt that Roy can get point guards to play the way that they need to, especially when they have the passing and playmaking ability of Coda. So I don't see any concerns there as far as them two meshing. And then Shaman Williams being the pure shooter that he was. We all saw what Roy was able to do with Wayne Ellington, Danny Green, Cam Johnson. The list goes on and on, so I don't have any concerns there. I definitely would have them lace them up with Roy and hope for the best.
Good stuff. Well, fellas, that was a lot of fun. And the good thing is that we're going to be doing more of this in the future. Mark is, fully involved with us on the basketball side of stuff for the blog, writing, recruiting, and the fun, and some fun opinionated articles as well. And when we get into season mode, we'll all 3 be on here giving our thoughts and opinions. Hopefully the season starts on time. But more importantly, hopefully the season goes a hell of a lot better than last year, because I don't know if I can go through another 14 and 19 year and have to talk about it. But nonetheless, this was a lot of fun. Mark, thank you for coming on, taking some time, and getting off the golf course and talking some Carolina basketball. And we'll do it again for you shortly again, buddy.
All right. Talk to you guys soon.
All right, Mark. Take care.
See you guys.
And so with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. And I'm going to turn it over to Anthony to talk to you guys about the Heel Tough Blog website.
Yeah, guys, this is one of the biggest weeks that we're going to have on the Heel Tough Blog website. Of course, we'll have everything ready for you tomorrow, previewing Tony Grimes' commitment, and then we will have you covered no matter what, whether he commits to Carolina or commits elsewhere. We'll have all the stuff you need on the Heel Tough Blog website. Of course, that's on the football side of things. Basketball side of things, of course, we're covering you with all of the offseason stories around Carolina basketball. We had you covered, of course, with the news of Anthony Harris and where he's at, so make sure you go back and check all of that out. You can also go back and check out this Underappreciated article, read a little more in depth on these guys and why we ended up picking them, as well as some other great stuff that we have coming up later on this summer as we take you throughout the offseason for basketball. And, of course, we will also be back next season when baseball season rolls around to cover the baseball team. Didn't really get to cover a ton of games this past year, but had you covered for the first month of the season before everything, of course, got shut down by COVID. And that's the biggest thing. We have you covered through all of the COVID-19